Hello and welcome to this week's Different League show sponsored by Betfred. Now, some were calling for the FA Cup to be scrapped this year, but did we not just have one of the most exciting third rounds in modern history? And what about the Premier League? United go 3 points clear at the top. What a game at Anfield we have this coming weekend. Lots to talk about in the company of Michael Brown and Mark Langdon. Brownie, how are you? Good Christmas?
Good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Good.
Busy over Christmas and New
Been
Year?
good, yeah, really good. Lots of games, been to many different grounds, many games and Zoom calls and radio from home, so very different times, but really enjoyed the football.
Adaptable, versatile, that's what you've always been, Brownie.
Got to try, mate. You got
Definitely.
to try it.
Look, we'll come on to the FA Cup in just a bit, and it's some fourth round tie with Man U Liverpool, of course, but it's Liverpool Manchester United in the Premier League this weekend. How big a fixture is it? Is it still the biggest that English football has to offer?
Oh, I feel like it probably is, just because of the sustained rivalry. I mean, we had sort of times where, when it was who's going to win the league out of Liverpool and Man City, Manchester United fans were almost preferring the fact that it would be Manchester City.
The lesser of two evils.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose from a pure footballing point of view, the City-Liverpool game has kind of maybe gone up another level, but the rivalry, the historic nature of the fixture, I think probably does still make it the biggest for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought it would be the top two? Who would have thought that United would be top? How important is it for the Premier League that United are kind of up there and challenging again?
Well, it is important. I mean, it's a huge football club, and obviously living in Manchester myself, lots of Manchester United supporters, and just getting a little bit carried away, a little bit cocky. Tonight's the
You're
night,
putting them
they're
down,
all
are you?
saying, before they obviously beat Burnley, that's the night we're going to go top of the league. Can you believe it? I say, listen, it's a long way to go. Even if it happens, you've seen Spurs go top, Everton right up there, then a run of results change for teams. And listen, it's great. Brilliant rivalry, and it doesn't get better, does it? Having the game at the weekend, and now it's up to Manchester United to really step up. But away from home, they've been good.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said that, doesn't he? The table isn't, you don't judge it on January the 12th.
You definitely don't.
But whatever people say about him, he is doing great in the league. How much credit should go to him for where they are right now? And are they title contenders?
So you look a few weeks ago, don't you? They were saying if he loses a particular game, is this going to be it? It's sort of a couple of games you lose. At Manchester United, you're almost, is the inevitable going to happen? He comes out of it, gets more results. And because you've got a low-scoring Premier League, we've got to take that into account. It's great that Manchester United, they're doing the job, the top of the league for now, but it is lower scoring. So they're closing that gap. They're doing a good job. I think they've got great players, as we know. Defensively, under a little bit of pressure, at that point, how will they come out of that? Will they still be able to sustain it? Confidence now is going to be really, really high.
Yeah, Poch, it's fair to say, isn't going to United now, is
No,
he?
he's not.
What kind of United is Ole building here? And do you feel they're title contenders?
Well, I think if you're top at this stage of the season, you have to be contenders. I mean, there's a big difference between contenders and will they win it. I still wouldn't fancy them too. But of course, they have to be considered contenders. I think what he's done well is managed to find another. It was always they were good at counter-attacking, but they really couldn't open up teams, and they're finding ways to do that. And whether that's through Pogba scoring the goal he did against Burnley, Bruno Fernandes wasn't at his best against Burnley, but has been previously being able to unlock defences. Edinson Cavani, I think, gives them a different option in the box, whereas before they weren't able to throw it in there maybe late on against a packed defence, where the speed of Rashford and Martial isn't quite as influential. So they've added a new way to win games. What I would say on the negative side of things is they've been scraping a lot of them by one goal, and we've seen that makes such a big difference. Sheffield United have been on the wrong end of a load of one goal defeats, and wouldn't have been a massive surprise had they drawn against Wolves and Aston Villa and only been under that pressure.
A lot's been mentioned, isn't it, about obviously having no supporters, being a counter-attacking team, sitting in, soaking up pressure. Are you allowed to do that being at Manchester United? The pressure would have been different. And we know, obviously, only several weeks ago, you can imagine, can't you, not being the most sort of adventurous and results not going your way, pressure sort of increased, but they've come out of it. And now the supporters, all of a sudden, honestly, I can't tell you, living where I am, I'm on message boards, and all of a sudden, over this week, it's just developed and sort of said, right, here we go.
I was speaking to the legendary jockey Ruby Walsh yesterday. He's a Manchester United fan, and he's getting to one of his other friends was saying he's reaching almost unbearable levels now. Goodness. So that, there's a long way to go. And that would be.
It makes it better, doesn't it? Having the game that's here.
It does.
It's amazing.
And we'll come on to the game a little bit later on. Although I would say, even if you're not playing well and you are winning games, that's a sign of a title-winning side. Let's hold on for just a second. Let's talk about the FA Cup now, shall we? I mean, because it has had its detractors in recent years, and there were some suggesting that perhaps it should be scrapped this year. But how good was the third round?
I think it is always, you want stories early on, and you had the stories, whether that's with Chorley getting through to the fourth round, albeit in different circumstances to usual against a very weakened Derby. You had that Marine versus Mourinho kind of thing that you could just hang the whole third round on. But you also want at least one proper upset, and you had that with Crawley, not just beating Leeds, absolutely thrashing them. So I think as the competition goes on, you still want the best teams in it to raise the level. So you had that, and so it really was, I suppose, as good a third round as you could get, given the problems we've got with no fans and teams having to play sort of under 17s and under 18s at times.
Yeah, ticks every box, I think it's fair to say, unless you're a Leeds United fan.
Unless
one of your former clubs. What on earth happened there?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, he made change at half time. The questions have been thrown out there. Any other manager would have been under big pressure. The results in the FA Cup, as we know, haven't been great, and they've obviously wanted to progress a little bit better. But luckily, the league form, the way they've gone about things, can sort of hide that at the moment. But they'll be disappointed. They'll be really disappointed to have gone on, and to lose it in that sort of manner. Yeah. They've not just lost it; they've been literally left behind in the game, haven't they? So big disappointment. But I was on the radio on the FA Cup, listening to all the scores coming. I was at Bristol Rovers, and it just was a bit magic. That FA Cup. I've always grown up myself. I've always loved the FA Cup and the games. So you've waited all your life. You're watching some of the Marine players all of your life to play in a game like that. And not everybody understands. You've waited, you've trained, and it's amazing. I've been on it from playing in the Premier League to playing in League Two to going to Port Vale to finish my career, to see different sides of it. And it's a special competition. I'm so glad we had a successful sort of
magic
weekend.
Definitely there. A friend of mine who's a Crawley fan said it's the greatest day of his life supporting the club.
Life. Yeah. Forget anything else. Just life.
I want to say that. He's got kids.
Rivals it.
Yeah. Taking your Leeds hat off then and putting your Spurs hat on, be honest, how worried were you before that Marine game?
Well, I've got to say, I'd worked the weekend. I sat with my boy watching the game, and I've seen the shot hit the bar. And actually, I wanted it to go in, because I wanted Marine to have a little bit of magic. They've got the magic, you see, when obviously the hype all week, but if it had just scored a goal, just to see what it was like, and then you lose 5-6-1, whatever it may be, that would have been special. And I think Spurs supporters would have said, no way can you, but if he's hit a rocket from so far out, or so listen, they did the job. They were very professional to take all the players that they did. You just seen this, I mean, rightly or wrongly, all of the supporters in the gardens looking over. It's a dream draw.
We all would have done that if we were overlooking. I mean, nearly massive shocks elsewhere as well. I mean, League Two side Newport took Brighton to penalties. How good was Jason Steele in goal with those penalties?
Save 4, did he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Stockport from the National League only lost to West Ham on an 83rd minute goal. So, what was your stand-up moment for you from the third round?
It's so difficult. I mean, a stand-up moment. Crawley beating Leeds United 3-0 is an incredible result. For me, still the Marine Spurs game and the hype and the pitch and stand and pulling up, rightly or wrongly, there was too many supporters as the bus pulling up. But seeing Gareth Bale on the bench at Marine, I mean, it's great that Spurs respected it in such a way, and because there is that risk of injury, there's a risk to reward factor of going into it. But that tells you everything about now going forward for the FA Cup. Next year, and the qualifying rounds and all that hard work that builds up, we generally only see the third round. But now for all the sides out there, and financially it's been very, very difficult for teams. So to be televised, and it's great.
Pochettino was great playing big players against the lower sides. Mourinho's done the same. What was your standout moment for you?
I think it's probably when Aston Villa equalised against Liverpool. Barry, a famous name in sort of Aston Villa terms, just giving the Villa kids that moment against one of the best teams in Europe and the current world champions is something that they'll never forget. And, you look at the stats, a lot of them won't make it at that level. They might forge a career in the game, but most of them, that might be as good as it gets playing against Liverpool in an FA Cup game. So at least whatever happens now, they've had that moment. I know Barry's a bit different and that he's highly rated, and hopefully he can. But yeah, to dropped off by their mums and dads for the game.
Do you know what I think it gives you though? I think it lets other teams see these young players in a different environment than an 18s game, a 23s game. Sure. Because I've been there recruiting at League One, League Two, and you think, I'm not sure about these players because it's a different game you go and watch. Now, all of a sudden, they've gone and performed on a totally different platform, where now, all of a sudden, a team will go, I'll take him and have a look as he's done that on that game. And it does change so many people's views on players, and that's what it opens up for those Aston Villa youngsters.
Okay, one more question before we go on to the social section, where we'll be talking about the FA Cup again. But just want to get your thoughts. Villa Spurs tonight was called off due to COVID. It's Spurs Fulham now. Scott Parker said it's scandalous, but it's been rearranged at such short notice. Jose Mourinho said, well, the game originally was only called off 2 hours before kick-off, and that itself was scandalous. He doesn't see a problem with this. Who's right here for you?
Listen, if Jose was put to have a fixture on Monday morning to say he was going to play Wednesday night, let me tell you, I have a problem with it. I see why Jose Mourinho's upset when the game's called off several hours beforehand. All the prep's been done, but there's no harm done with that. It's not affecting his players, his loading. They can go and load the players straight away at the training facilities that they've got. They can literally say, right, we're going to go and train straight away because everything's on site. They're close to where they were. So they can adapt and change to that. Scott Parker's view, he was told on Saturday morning that there was a chance of it, but it was unlikely. So he has to pick his team that, he had a difficult cup tie, that he had to sort of go quite strong, which we understand that he has to do that. And at that point, it changes his mindset for the Wednesday night. You prep on Sunday, the amount of minutes you put into people. And Monday, you feel, well, no, your change is totally different. To go away to a Spurs side, that is really hard to take.
Okay, let's have a look at this week's social section, where we take a look at some of the funny posts that have happened and put across this week. First up, it's from Marine Football Club. Vinicius strikes over the bar. Gareth Bale is warming up here. Gareth Bale is warming up at Marine. Gareth Bale, 4-0. It's quite surreal, Brownie, isn't it?
I mean, it's not even forget the game. Gareth Bale's just warming up at Marine on the side of the pitch. I mean, it's fascinating. And I would like to have been there when Jose Mourinho says, right, this is the travelling party, this is the squad we're going to play. And Gareth's gone, wow, things have changed for me. Do you know how
from the Bernabeu to Marine? To
Marine, and it was just as we're talking about. It's so special for that to be the case, and he took it in great spirit. Was all professional, great lad, and so it's special, and they'll have those memories forever. And I'm sure Gareth Bale won't forget it either.
And actually, the second tweet as well is a photo of someone taking a picture of Gareth Bale, whether it's from his bedroom window, I'm not sure. But and Gareth Bale was great. He joined in, didn't he, with a wave back and on Twitter.
People used to say, I wouldn't watch them if they were playing in my back garden or whatever. And literally, for some of them Marine players, there was that opportunity. I think Bale has mentioned it, Reggio mentioned it. Just how much they enjoyed that moment and sort of giving something back as well. I think that a lot of the players understand that they're in a very privileged position, and for the Marine players, their season could be over. The league can't restart, and I think Tottenham did a really good job in terms of the money they raised, the profile that they sort of added to the game. And Mourinho always does it. He'll always pick strong teams for cup competitions. He's not going to pick a team of 15-year-olds unless he really has to. So the big guns were there.
And there were great scenes in the Chorley dressing room and Crawley dressing room afterwards as well, wasn't it? Singing along. All
what about Marine's sing-along? Chorley's sing-along. I mean, it was amazing. Everybody, they get professional at it now, aren't they? I mean, it's just great to see that sort of spirit. And as a player, it's a special place, the dressing room, and you do miss it. You retire, you come away from it. But there's nothing better when you walk in there and you've won and the spirits are high, and it's great to see that. And for me, I'm just looking and thinking, you miss it as a player. Enjoy it. These players need to enjoy it while you're in it. Great. It was just, I kept sort of having another look and watching it again. And it's fantastic to win, like, people giving you no real chance. And that's what we're talking about, the magic.
I don't think Adele's got much to worry about.
Great to see that.
She'll be at the next game, surely.
Magic of the FA Cup is definitely around. Okay, let's go to our different league Q&A section now, shall we? It gives you a chance to win a £25 Amazon voucher for your question to be read out. A couple of good ones for you here, Bran. Are you ready?
No.
Louis Burkitt has asked, who that you've not been managed by would you like to have played under?
Oh, well, I've had a few because I think I registered about 30 managers. I mean, it's
At
a
least,
lot.
surely.
So whoever signed me, I was thinking, well, you best get your package sorted straight away. There's another manager coming in. No, you look at the modern day stuff now, don't you, manager-wise, and Pep Guardiola is one that probably everybody would have wanted to have gone and learned from, and we've seen him with certain players going to different positions, do different roles, and attacking-wise. So we know defensive coaches have still as an art to set up and be hard to beat, but offensively to go and play and to pick holes and to forecast things and to coach that stood in the middle of the pitch is very, very difficult. And I think
so. Would you like to have played in a Pep Guardiola
Now, I'm not saying my style would have suited it,
well,
Scott.
no.
I would like to have seen it. It would have
But
helped
you obviously were holding
Yeah.
box to box, but you
Yeah.
holding midfielder as well. You'd have been plugging some holes in that defence. And
Well, you'd have been sat there. I mean, and you'd have learned a different role. I think of a style of football that we probably hadn't seen over here for only since recent times, and I think that would have given you a whole new dimension. And so it's always a tough one, isn't it? I want a manager that you could have a laugh and enjoy your times with. I think that's so important. And maybe there was one thing I would say with Pep. I'm not sure that enjoyment, real fun and spirit and laughing on the training ground to the extent where I really buzzed off that. I would work harder than anybody else, but I'd still want that comedy in the day, that someone falling over, making tricks, doing jokes in the dressing room and on the training field. Yes, in the game as well, I think you have to enjoy it. There's parts in games that you have to still laugh at mistakes or funny things that happen, and it's getting harder to do that.
So Jurgen Klopp comes to mind with that, being a top manager. In a word then, who would you go for, Pep or Klopp?
I'm going to have to say Pep, but would I like to have gone and worked for Jurgen Klopp? And maybe a more dynamic back-to-front style, I would have maybe enjoyed more than the patient, slower build-up, intricate. So how much I appreciate that perfect football, for my style, might have appreciated more of a quicker back-to-front, bit more dynamic, bit more pressing, so a different style. So, listen, we're talking about unbelievable managers I would love to have gone and played under, yeah. So I was very fortunate, some great managers, as I say, 30 something, had some good times along the way. But the standard and the variation of managers seems to be getting better. But the enjoyment side is getting less and less with the business aspect of the football.
Louis, I still don't think he answered there, did he? Pep was the answer. Kieran Platford 1. Who is the best technically gifted footballer you've ever trained with?
Well, I remember this young left-footed player who's very good, who I've seen coming out. That's Scott. No, it wasn't Scott. Sorry. It wasn't Scott.
I'm older than you, so that young. I knew you couldn't have been talking about
no,
me.
So I remember as a young player, I was very fortunate. Peter Beasley came to Manchester City. I'm talking as a real youngster when you have that effect. Going away with England, David Beckham's there. But I still always say Georgie Kinclatzy for Manchester City, because I was still only 16, 17, 18 going into the team with this, a player that probably up until recent years we hadn't seen. So when you started me back 20 odd years ago, this player was different. His balance, his agility, how he moved the ball was more suited to today's game, and I think that the game would have found an area on the pitch for him to turn, to get on the ball. But he had everything, and he'd be really strong, low centre of gravity, and I love to try and in training go and get stuck in, go try to take the ball off him. You couldn't, because he had this like thick set body, but how he moved the ball, his touch was perfect. He'd just have that arm up and he'd find little space. And we've seen some of the goals he had. Probably a player, obviously that not everybody's seen today, who should have gone on, and there would have been much better things said about him and a better career. He didn't fulfil that potential. But I will say, from a young player, that was the one who really stood out, because you're more sort of impressed as a young player going in. I've come from some fantastic players along the way later on. At Spurs, so many, very fortunate.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Georgie Kinkladze, get on YouTube, watch some of his stuff. He was unbelievable, wasn't he? Okay, so look, Kieran and Louis, £25 Amazon voucher to you guys, and try and get your questions in for next week as well. Some really good questions coming in. Okay, let's have a look at the game previews, shall we now? And first up, this was meant to be a Friday night game. It's now a Saturday evening game. Fulham-Chelsea, West London derby. Chelsea not in a great place right now, it has to be said, but that 4-0 win against Morecambe, how much confidence do you feel that would have given them, Werner and Havertz scoring, Frank Lampard as well?
I'm not sure it'll give them confidence. They've been looking at that type of fixture. You're Chelsea, Morecambe come along, and all you're thinking is only the worst. You fear the worst. Whatever you do, or however much of a performance you put on, you're not really going to get the credit for it. It's a tough one. You just need to say, win the game, let's move on, and let's get on with routine stuff.
But did it tick boxes that? Because you're right, it could have been
minutes for people.
A real problem.
It got minutes for people and showing what I'm doing, but it could have been a real problem. If they'd have gone on and not being convincing, it just continues that uncertainty, the journey, results. But I think we're gonna have to judge this Chelsea side over a long period of time. There's been money spent, there's been signings. It's a real test for Frank Lampard. But towards the end of the season, let's see where they are.
See rumours that Avram Grant might be coming in to help Frank Lampard and Jody Morris. Sure, I mean, oh dear. Yeah. Lovely guy, but
Lampard would have known this when he went to Chelsea, that as soon as he had one bad run, people would, and he can have all the confidence he wants in his own ability. It's just because of what's happened previously at Chelsea. Other managers have been sacked, and Avram Grant has come in, or Gus Hiddink has come back. So he has to. I mean, he will know. He'll understand the club.
Avram's a great guy. He managed me at Portsmouth, and his list of people is incredible who he knows. I mean, it's breathtaking. He'd take team talks, and he'd say, "I've just come off the phone from Unreal, whoever it may be." And it's all about desire and life-changing moments, and the story. Like amazing, very interesting person. How he can help Frank, I'm not so sure. I think Frank will know him already. Can he sort of get a relationship if that's the case to go and help? But it's a Fulham side who are a little bit unpredictable. They've got a little bit tighter, haven't they? And I played in the team, Scott, 2006 that beat Chelsea, and I think it was 30 years before we beat Chelsea, and I don't think Fulham beat Chelsea often.
No. We were speaking before Fulham played Spurs here, so we don't quite know of that result. But I wonder if Scott Parker's calmed down. but where are Fulham right now? And actually, where are Chelsea right now for you?
Well, Chelsea have obviously had that influx of signings, a little bit of excitement around, and the pressure's on them now. I always felt that would be coming. Against Manchester City, they were blown away, and I think that would be a key sort of moment where you'd say, what level have they come? And you then realise that they're still a little bit away. So, like I said, it's in transformation still. We'll judge Chelsea at the end of the season. Fulham had adversity, changed players. He's trying to find a style of a Fulham side who've really conceded goals for a long period of time. He started to tighten that up. That'll obviously improve. They've got a couple of results. They've not had a bad run of late. But COVID struck. Now a difficult run of games, obviously been put into obviously Spurs and Chelsea. Scott Parker's former teams, he'll know well, and he'd be probably disappointed of all weeks that it's come as it has.
Good time or bad time to face Chelsea, and where do you stand with Havertz and Werner? He's getting a goal against Morecambe.
I think it's probably a good time to play Chelsea, because despite the win against Morecambe, they are vulnerable, I think, to If they concede the first goal, everyone will be saying the same thing about Chelsea's problems. So I don't really see that Werner will take much from scoring against Morecambe and playing. I mean, he's a German international. He should be scoring against Morecambe. I think the problem for Chelsea is just working out what their best 11 is, because if it's Ziyech on the wings, he likes to come and cross balls in, but Werner doesn't want balls crossed in. Havertz probably wants to play a bit more when Mason Mount is playing, but Lampard really likes Mason Mount, and Kante picks himself in that position. If you play Havertz and Mount, are you too open in midfield? So he's got to work all of that out, and he had no pre-season to do that. So I don't think people should be overly surprised it's not quite happening for Chelsea at the moment.
No, they were ahead of the game at the beginning of December, where people were talking about title contenders, and now it just goes to show the modern world we live in, doesn't it? A few bad results, and apparently he's under pressure. Betfred selection for this game then?
It's so hard, and do you know what I've said? It all depends on this Fulham side. If they're going to keep clean sheets, can it be a 0-0 draw for Fulham and Chelsea? Looking at the week they've got, obviously playing Spurs, I think it's going to be tough for them. So I'm going to go with a ball draw.
Are you?
I think a draw as well. I think this is a tricky little game for Chelsea, albeit that Fulham, not an ideal week having to play Spurs and Chelsea, but I'll go for a draw as well. 4 draws in a row before the trip to the new White Hart Lane.
I don't think it'll be pretty. I think it would be two teams keeping it tight. I think Chelsea will go back to basics, and I fancy them to nick it by a goal to 0.
Well, I didn't expect anything different, Scott.
Moving swiftly on, shall we? Game preview 2. Aston Villa versus Everton. Now, as we speak, this game might not be on due to Villa players having COVID. What are we thinking here? They're not going to play this like they did in the Cup, are they?
No. The Premier League have already said that they don't want the integrity of the competition to be distorted to such an extent that, Everton get a much easier game against Aston Villa than somebody else would. You need to have at least 14 players available. Even then, when people have had 14 players available, I think the Premier League have sort of erred on the side of caution. And I can understand why they would do that. If the game goes ahead, though, I think it's a difficult game for Villa, because we've seen a team like Newcastle, they were hit by COVID, and it took a while for their players to get, and some of them not even got back to full speed yet. And so, I would fancy Everton to win the game if just because Villa's lack of fitness, I think.
How would you see it? Villa first team against Everton, Villa kids against Everton.
It's point. Villa put the kids out. It's pointless, really. I think it's only going to be one win. Everton are improving. They've had their little hiccup, and I think now all of a sudden they've found another way. They're getting results, and they're starting to grind them out. And I think if they get a couple of additions, they're sat in 4th position, which is unbelievable of turnaround for the football club. And I just think they don't always do the prettiest things. They don't always play them a great style, but they're just finding now a way, as I just said, of grinding results out. Calvert-Lewin, obviously missing. Will he be involved? I fancied him to score, but I do fancy goals in the game for sure. Whether it be obviously a lesser team for Aston Villa, whether it be the first team, I fancy goals, but I do fancy Everton to go on and win the game.
So Betfred selection, Everton?
Yeah, over 2.5 goals for me, Everton to win.
I'm just going to go for Everton to win. Yeah, I think the fitness could be an issue for Villa if this game goes ahead.
If Villa, I'd fancy Villa if they had everyone fit, if all things were even. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be, is it? Even if the game is on, I'd fancy Everton to get a good win there. Okay, Sheffield United against Spurs. Good one, this one.
What could my prediction be,
Scott? How many clubs did you not play for? We just talked about your man of managers.
Rather than who I've played for.
Yeah, and look, we don't know as we speak how Spurs got on against Fulham, but you played for Sheffield United more than any other in your career. I won't ask you, is that the one club for you? But you were working on the Newcastle game last night. Yep. How happy are you with VAR right now?
Honestly, I've got to say, for a game being so tight, it was so exciting. Whether that's my Sheffield United hat on, I was commentating with Conor McNamara, who's very experienced, as we all know, does tons of games. And it was just a really entertaining sort of game. What's going to happen? Where's it going to go? And VAR with Fernandes, is it? as it went back and as it clipped it, we've seen it hit his knuckle, but the direction of the ball was just moved slightly with the arm. Everyone's thinking, is Billy Sharp got some sort of shirt? The end of the game, for Billy Sharp to step up and score. I seen him at Bristol Rovers at the weekend and he was doing some extra running, him and Jagielka. And I was making fun saying, come on, you've got to go a little bit quicker. And they were like, leave us alone because the fitness coach is on them. And I said, you never know when you need it. And actually a couple of days later, steps up, great composure, puts the penalty away under huge pressure right at the end. Bogle chests it past Ramsdale, agonisingly trickles past the post. So it was great relief. You can sort of feel it in the stadium. So now will it give them a little bit of confidence? The problem they've got Spurs, Manchester United, Manchester City.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
I'm a massive Chris Wilder fan, and if they do get rid of him, which I don't think they will, but if they do, he'd be a success elsewhere. I don't think there's any doubt of that.
I think he's on a great
But what has happened this season for you, and you just touched on it there, what could that win do, despite them having some tough games coming up?
Well, it's gone on for so long. I mean, Chris Wilder was on 99 wins. And finally, we've seen him afterwards at Bristol Rovers, and it was nice to see his smile. And I said, you are aware it's your 100th win? Oh, I think I am aware of that, yes. And it was great to finally get that away for the team. And for me, being around the coaching staff, the players, just for them to have that, we talked about earlier about FA Cup celebrations in dressing rooms. Imagine going in there every single game. And it's saying, forget what's coming forward for them. That last night was their sort of their reward for the hard work. Quality-wise, we know they haven't been there. We talk about injuries down the left-hand side. Stevens, O'Connell have affected them in a huge way. Top of the pitch, Brewster hasn't probably got going. McBurney's had his injuries, at least Musset has. So there's been a lot of turnaround, lack of confidence, no crowd. That Sheffield United crowd last year were buzzing to be in the Premier League.
It's hit them big time.
And it's hit
more
them,
than any other.
and they've been affected. And confidence we talk about, that sort of just the belief to play a crisp forward pass in front of someone, somebody to go make the run, that extra little bit. Energy's there, but again, the worrying thing is, Scott, 17 shots against 10 men Newcastle, still needed a VAR penalty to score. It tells it all for me. That, you know, they were excellent last night, how they moved it, their energy. Chris talked about an identity, and even he will look and say, we can't do any more if we can't score.
Ryan Brewster did well though, didn't he? When he came on, I thought he looked positive, which is something
of shots away.
Exactly, a turn shot.
But when it's open and easier for him, he has to work a little bit harder as well, Scott.
Yeah. Since we were last together, Spurs, they've won the last 3, haven't they? Avoided a giant killing. Got into the Carabao Cup final and a very good 3-0 win against Leeds.
Yeah, I think the win against Leeds was the one really that stood out there. They should be beating Brentford. Brentford are a decent team. They should be beating them. Obviously, the Marine game, something bad would have had to have happened for them not to win. But the Leeds game kind of panned out exactly how I think most people expected it to, where Leeds played good football and then just got hit on the counter-attack. But I think from Tottenham's point of view, they went in front and they didn't sit on the lead, and they actually did, still offer that threat going forward. The team's not working perfectly all over the pitch, but I don't think it needs to when you've got Son and you've got Harry Kane in those forward positions. The team is just geared up towards making them to a success.
So how does Sheffield make it back-to-back wins? What is your Betfred selection here?
I think what you need to do is put Son and Kane in the stand, leave Bale where he is, keep waving at whoever
keep them at Marine.
Keep everybody out of the way. It's going to be tough. I mean, I sort of think, as you would expect, a draw. Sheffield United having that confidence. It will be tough. I do fancy Son to score a goal because of that counter-attacking. Fullbacks will be going forward for Sheffield United at some point, and Son's lethal. So I think a score draw, but I fancy Son to score.
Is that in splinters there? Right. 2 of his former teams called him a draw.
Well, it's something like that, isn't it?
I've gone for a draw as well.
Listen, it's going to be tough for Sheffield United.
Yeah.
I know that, but hopefully they can find a little bit in, and obviously the extra days rest could certainly help.
Yeah, I think they'll make it tough for Spurs.
I'm going to go for Tottenham to win and under 3.5 goals. I can see it being similar to the West Brom and Burnley wins for Spurs, where they have to be patient, but eventually that quality that they've got, tells.
Okay, I have gone for a draw. We'll move swiftly on. Good luck, Christo. Game preview 4 on Sunday. What a big game is it. We touched on Liverpool, Manchester United, and the iconic fixture that it is. But look, it is the top two. It's second versus first. It's United who are top. And let's start with United. It was a very good win against a tough Burnley side last night, wasn't it? The form's really good in terms of turning possible draws into wins.
Well, Burnley, as we know, I listened to Sean Dyche's interview. He said, I've got to take the positives. His performance was good. And that's what he does. He believes if those performances are good throughout the season, he will get those results. And that was his thoughts from the game. But at that point, you've got to give full credit to Manchester United. To go in there, yes, VAR was heavily involved, as usual, at the moment. And some decisions for possible red cards, etc., come into play. But Manchester United, away from home this season, have been excellent. And you've got to take that into account into this game. But Liverpool, as we know, clinical in attack. They've been hurt recent times, and I do expect some sort of reaction from Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been clinical, though, have they, in recent games? So the reaction will be interesting. We'll come on to that in just a second. We touched on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and how well he's handled things. We've got to touch on Paul Pogba as well, because he's taken a lot of stick. But at the moment, he's playing very well. Are we seeing the real Paul Pogba after all this time, or is it just a few good games?
I think it's a few good games, but it's cost a lot of money. He's paid a lot of money. He should be delivering a few good games. It's not asking that much of him. I think I think he enjoys probably when Bruno Fernandes is on the pitch as well. Like the team just moves the ball a lot better when Fernandes is on the pitch. And Pogba played a deeper position against Burnley. I think Solskjaer doesn't trust him that much, and you probably get him back out on the left-hand side. But it's about finding ways where he can hurt the opposition. He's one of the players that wins penalties, but he sees a through ball, and he can help knit that United team just together a little bit, because I've felt at times it's just all about the pace, and you need to have more than just that one-trick pony, really. And so Pogba does offer that, and when he's on the ball and he's focused, and he is one of the best midfielders in the world at his best.
When you're winning, and I think that's such a key point, as everybody who's criticising Pogba for such a long period of time, is I always felt he could have went into I got criticised instead of a combined Liverpool Manchester United team, and I put Pogba in, and I was working on an international channel, and they were all saying, really? They're getting tweets in. And I said, listen, he'll fit into those sides. When a team's going well, you've got the ball, advanced positions, he can do things other people can't. So we're starting to see the better of him now.
What about when a team's not doing well?
Well, they're not. When they're not doing well, we've seen. The evidence has been there. He struggles. He's finding it hard to do the other sides of the game, and he'll get frustrated. So he has to improve on that, because there's going to be times I would expect, unless Manchester United prove everybody wrong and continue to win right throughout the season. But as we know, Liverpool are going to dominate at times in the game. He has to find ways of affecting the game when it's not going so well.
Well, you touched on Liverpool. What has happened to them? 2 points from 9. Lost to Southampton. Good Southampton side, but you wouldn't necessarily expect that. A draw against Newcastle and a draw at home to West Brom.
Yeah, I mean, West Brom, again, going to get another result in adversity, which you can't make it up. But you've got to see the teams off when you're having as much ball, as much chances as they are. Injuries, uncertainty, that changes the whole aspect. And all of a sudden, you start to have a little wobble, belief changes. They felt when they were going on the pitch, they're going to just clean everybody up. They were at the top of the game. But soon as that sort of rotation, a few little changes here and there.
But they have handled it really well, especially since Van Dijk got injured.
Well, you say they have, but now they haven't got the results. So there is a knock-on effect.
So do you feel it was always going to come?
Yeah, I mean, you didn't think it was going to happen, but you understand why it's happening. The amount of games that we're being asked to play as well in quick succession is not helping any sort of high-intensity team like Liverpool, who want to go and run over teams that believe in that sort of high press, high energy, as we mentioned. So at the top of the pitch, chances created will be key against Manchester United, and I think Mo Salah could be the one. He needs a big performance.
How do you see Liverpool right now? I mean, it's 1 goal in those 3 games.
Against Newcastle, I didn't feel like there was that much wrong. There was Darlow played well, there were blocks on the line, and that can happen in any game. And last season, it didn't happen for Liverpool. They were nicking a lot of late wins, but that's not normal to get 100 points and sort of around the 100-point mark. Teams just you do have unlucky days. The Southampton performance first half was the one that Jurgen Klopp mentioned it as well. It was well below their standards. Trent Alexander-Arnold was awful in the game, and if he doesn't offer you that going forward, you then sort of start to notice what he can't do, and defensively, particularly where the right centre back has been moved around quite often, different people playing in there. I'm sure that's an area where Pogba or Rashford, whoever plays out there, will really look to exploit. I tend to take Liverpool though over the whole of a couple of years where it's mainly been right from Jurgen Klopp, but it's been right with the right conditions, and now they just maybe not as sure of themselves, and defensively they're potentially looking around and thinking, do we make that extra run, or has somebody got to hold back because we've got to protect, whether it's a Phillips or somebody like that. So it's maybe impacting them all over the pitch, just not having the safety of a Van Dijk there.
So how do United win this game? And if United were to win it, what kind of statement would that send out?
Well, I think it's obvious for the statement. I mean, this is the testing moment now. Manchester United have gone to top of the league. We've seen teams do it, as I mentioned, and then after that they've struggled for a couple of weeks, and the pressure's now back on them. And you say timing. I think has it come a little bit early for Manchester United to raise everybody's hopes? Did they need to just stay just behind it for a little bit longer? And obviously when they play the bigger sides, this is where they've got to perform. But they're happy sitting in. They're happy soaking up the pressure. Got great pace at the top of the pitch and quality there. Defensively is going to have to be key for them. They've got to keep Liverpool forward line extremely quiet, because we know how good they can be. And it's a real fascinating game now to say, is it a title decider? That's going to be the question that's going to be asked. I think Manchester City are going to... I've asked the same question. I mean, Manchester City have certainly started to string together. So it's brilliant. We want to see an open Premier League. And with the scores, you talk about 100 points, we're sort of forecasting around 80. That tells you sort of the comparisons, how Liverpool and Manchester City have slipped down towards the rest and the gap's closed. So, yeah, fascinating game. And you're probably going to ask me a prediction, aren't you?
I'm going to ask you a prediction.
I think Liverpool win the game. I think it'll be extremely tight, and I think there'll be a few goals, but I do think Liverpool are going to win the game. Mo Salah to score, maybe.
Okay, Mark?
I'm just not sure that Liverpool are sure of themselves at the moment, so I'm going to go for the draw. United 1-8, 2 draws in their last 10. That includes a 0-0 against Man City in there as well. So, it might be a tight game, this one. Yeah,
a month ago I'd have fancied Liverpool. City, for me, are the best team right now on current form. They showed how you can beat United, and United, for me, aren't there in the cup game. I thought they were excellent. But Liverpool aren't in great form right now. I'm going to go for a draw and under 3.5 goals as well.
It's so hard to question Liverpool, isn't it? But the times are slightly changed at the moment.
They are indeed. Okay, talking of Manchester City, let's talk about them against Crystal Palace on Sunday. Another one of your former clubs, your first club, of course. I've just said they're the form team in the Prem. Do you feel they are right now, and what's changed?
I think there's a consistency of being hard to beat. Defensively, we've seen the amount of clean sheets that they've got. They're not creating anywhere near the chances. They're not as clinical at the top of the pitch that they were. I still think a number 9, a Sergio Aguero, or another Gabriel Jesus has had those injuries. We've seen Torres, we've seen Sterling, we've seen different personnel step in to try and get goals. So the goal tallies are definitely a lot lower. Chances created are lower, but they seem to be a lot tighter, and that shows in the clean sheets that they've got. So they're doing things right. Would I like to see them be a bit more adventurous at times regards to putting people away? But that comes down at the top of the pitch. Aguero needs to come into play, get a run of games, which will be difficult. He's so far away at the moment from that. But yeah, I see them going really well. It's good times. I'm doing the next couple of City games, so hopefully with lots of goals.
Okay, I think I know what you're going to say here, but before we come on to the prediction, I mean, how do you see them right now, Mark? I mean, they've won the last 6 in all competitions, and brilliant performances, certainly against Chelsea and United as well.
Yeah, but 3 goals conceded in the last 13 before the game against Brighton. Just goes to show how well they're doing defensively. I think it's all about the control. Like they've got the control back in their games now, and Pep's obsessed by controlling, because that helps you offensively but also defensively, and that they just weren't able to find the right solutions up front. I mean, I'm not sure De Bruyne is a long-term option there, but he's so good. He can play absolutely anywhere, and he's finding a lot of space in that position, and it makes sense to some degree. Like, why would you put somebody right up against the best defenders?
The rotation so well,
Yeah.
so they drag people here, there, and everywhere. That allows Kevin De Bruyne to go and pop up, find positions, and they are really good at it, aren't they?
They are. I just wonder. I suppose Palace are blanket defence. There might not be those spaces, and that's where you might miss an Aguero type, where the ball's flying around the box a little bit more.
And Palace have got the history to go to the Etihad and win. We've seen amazing goals. Andros Townsend, Roy Hodgson. How dare we doubt his setup, his capability of keeping a tough, clean sheet, hard working team. They work on shape all the time, as we know, his sides, and
but
his setup
and
is
you're right.
very, very good.
You're right. Historically, they've had decent results. They can be very organised and difficult to break down, but they haven't been recently, have they?
I think they're sat in a good position. I think for me, you would take it for the age of the squad. We talk about financial restraints on Crystal Palace. This year is going to be a huge one for them. Recruitment, the amount of players that are out of contract is incredible at Crystal Palace. So we're going to see a different Crystal Palace next season, you would think. But this season, Roy Hodgson doesn't change his style. He doesn't go away. And the benefit with this group of players, they all know exactly what he wants. It's been there now that they know the roles and responsibilities, and it's about distances, it's about gaps, but ultimately, how do Manchester City do it? Where do they find the gaps? How do they sort of exploit you? So, listen, we know it's going to be tough for this Crystal Palace side. You don't expect them to get too many opportunities against a more controlled, as we said, Manchester City, but they have got some good firepower, Crystal Palace, if they can get in those areas.
Wonder what's going to happen to Eberezer.
Well, I mean, not the brightest move. There's been a big sort of clamp down and sort of reminder of people and footballers' responsibilities. Just can't go to that game.
No. Okay, Betfred selection for this one.
You always keep putting me under these pressure, don't you? I think there's going to be lots of goals. So, would I see Manchester City scoring 3 goals? I certainly would, and I'd see a home win very, very convincingly.
I'm going to go for Man City to win to 0 in this game. I just think Dias has made a really big improvement to that City defence, and he looks like the leader, actually. They were missing. He bosses Stones around a lot and the midfielder, so very impressed with him.
Yeah, I remember a couple of weeks ago, City Newcastle, and I thought City would win by 4 or 5. Didn't quite happen. They did get a comfortable win. I think even if you give Palace a couple of goals here, City will do. I think you're right. Probably City to win by 3. They're capable of 4, 5, 6.
This is the thing. And you're a Crystal Palace player. You're getting off the bus and you're thinking, what's going to happen here? and it's true. We've been there. We've all seen as you get off and you just hope you can keep it tight for a long period of time. It gives you that sort of energy to carry on.
Okay, final game preview. Monday Night Football, Arsenal against Newcastle. And we're speaking here before Arsenal play Palace, but Arsenal in great form over Christmas, weren't they? What did they eat?
What are the advocates dinner? I know exactly what you're going to say. I mean, we've seen them, the Carabao Cup. I'm asked the question, is it time for Arteta to go? And at that point, I'm thinking, well, let's give, Pep Guardiola actually was the one who came out and was really strong. He would against his friend, saying, let's really back Mikel. He's a really good coach. Over time, he will get this side better. Recruitment into January. Can he get some help? Can he improve the squad? He's had a couple of little bits here and there in regards to the recruitment side of it. He didn't need January. He just went on and it was some turnaround against the Chelsea side as well. The pressure was on, and so it's great to see because I think that I don't want to see any managers leave, and I don't want to see that. We understand the pressure that's there, and out of that adversity, he's trying to get a system, a style of play, and we can see it. But the development going to the top of the pitch hasn't really got there. They're not creating anything, and ultimately the pressure keeps coming if you're not putting the ball in the net. And he seems to have found some sort of way, and a tough game in the FA Cup. They come through it, and confidence will be much better. But I still think they need a little bit of help. Recruitment for a historic period of time has been really, really poor here.
I think there are some managers you look at when things aren't going well, and you're thinking he hasn't got it to get them out of it. And there are some who think just give him time, give him some money, and give him patience. And for me, Mikel Arteta is in the latter of that. What's happening with Mesut Ozil? I have to say I didn't follow him on his social media Q&A telling about his future. What do we make of that?
Well, I think he maybe tried to put a little bit of pressure on the club previously that they're not for moving. So I think he knows he needs to move on. But he's only going to move to... I mean, Fenerbahce will not be able to pick up his full-time wages. They're just, impossible.
Arsenal would pay him up, wouldn't they?
Well, they're going to have to, and it probably comes down to that Gareth Bale Real Madrid situation where you say, well, how desperately do you want me to leave, and then you eventually find a biting point that suits everybody. I mean, he's too good a player not to be playing, but Arteta had made it clear he wasn't going to be playing for Arsenal. I felt they'd missed a number 10 in the way that he wants them to play. They'd missed somebody in that position. A couple of weeks ago, I mentioned Smith Rowe and the influence he might be able to have on the team. I mean, it's hard to put that much pressure on a young player, but he certainly changed the dynamic of the way that they play. He just adds enthusiasm and quality in that position because everything was going wide and then being crossed in, or it was going... The team wasn't connecting very well, and he's just come in and just added that connection to the midfield, to the attack. So, I mean, sometimes the solutions aren't in the transfer market and they're in the academy.
Yeah, breath of fresh air, without a doubt. I mean, not been a great couple of weeks for Steve Bruce, I think it's fair to say. Out of both cups, slipping down the table. Could they be dragged into relegation trouble?
I think that's the criticism from a lot of the supporters, the setup, the way they progress up the pitch. They're not creating, they're not scoring. But they had a steady start, 8 points still above the relegation zone. But they've had a tough run of games. We've seen COVID, as we mentioned.
That has affected them, hasn't it? You mentioned
massively.
That earlier.
Well, St. Maximum is still recovering. He's got a condition which has made it a scare for him to actually being able to play, being able to train. So it's a key player at the top of the pitch for the creativity side of it. And I think for me is the setup's good. They're hard to beat. Yes, you'd say they've lost to Sheffield United. 10 men has affected that. So they're under pressure. They're not getting up the pitch, but they know how to soak up pressure. They've been used to that for many years. We've seen under Rafa that type of setup. And which manager's going to go in and open that side up? You can criticise Steve Bruce. You can say, right, let's go and play. We want to get more adventurous. We want to get up the pitch more, quicker. And it's going to take a several period of time of the recruitment change. We've got a real negative impact with the owners. And it's not going to, just taking Steve Bruce out of that equation isn't going to change the situation. We understand the Newcastle fans and the frustrations. They expect the team to be around 8th, 6th, challenging. We all understand the size of the club, but we have to be realistic with what's being given to them. Could there be better at times? Yes, they could. Could they have done things different? Personnel changes? We know that. But they'll just be disappointed. But an Arsenal side who are improving, it will be a tough game. And now it's a real test of strength in that setup for them. Yeah,
at the moment his remit is purely to keep them up, isn't it? Until the takeover.
But not for a Newcastle United supporter.
Newcastle fans want to see their side play a certain way.
And be up in the top half of the
with
table.
The players they've got, if they play that certain way, what's more likely to happen?
If I'm a Newcastle supporter now, I'm actually saying keep us away from that bottom three. Steve Bruce can do that, and let's see how the longevity goes. We understand the frustration.
I think it's unfair on him at the moment. But I do understand the frustrations what Newcastle fans have been used to. Betfred's selection for this one?
Unfortunately, I think with an improving Arsenal side, a Newcastle United side under pressure, firepower we've talked about, I would expect Arsenal to go on and win the game, and I'd probably say half-time, full-time.
Yeah, I've gone Arsenal to win both halves.
I'm going for Arsenal to win and under 3.5 goals. Don't really see Newcastle scoring again.
Not good for Newcastle at the moment. Okay, let's go for our best fantasy football pick this weekend. Each of us picks a player who we think will perform the best. Who have you gone for?
Well, I've gone, obviously, the biggest game of the weekend. I thought, who can affect it the most? I've had to say Mo Salah because I feel he's there. We all know what he can deliver. This is a game now where he's got to stand up, bring his side back to the top of the table to say we are still there, we're going to be champions, and we're talking about a top player with real class and a Manchester United side who are going to sort of sit in, defend at times. Can he be the difference?
Fascinating game. Looking forward to that already. Mark, who have you gone for?
I've gone for Antonio at West Ham. They've got a couple of home games coming up, Burnley and then West Brom. I felt like he needed the run. He's not maybe at full fitness at the moment, but the fact that Haller is out, sold to Ajax, just means that he's got to play every minute for them at the moment. And I'm sure once he gets up to full speed, there's goals there for him.
Yeah, when he is fit, he's an absolute. Well, he's just an incredible player. He really is, and
great guy as well. Really nice to have around
Is he?
the place. I've come across him. He lives locally to me, although his children are at the same school as mine, and.
How many houses you got? I thought you lived
guy.
up north.
And he lives at West Ham. He trains at West Ham, comes back to see the children. But he's a really nice guy who, likeable, smiley, gone on under a little bit of adversity, turned it round, and now he's the main man. Brilliant, new contract, and really going well. Good to see him back.
I've gone for Patrick Bamford. I think there'll be a massive reaction from Leeds after what's happened.
Have you been seeing my picks next?
No, but
have you really?
I've had to change my pick because of yours.
Okay.
But in terms of this one, I think there'll be a massive reaction from Leeds. And I think Patrick Bamford, having been rested, I think will be fresh. I think there'll be opportunities. And at the moment, the way he's playing, I think he's doing fantastically well this season. So I can see him getting 1 or 2 goals against the Brighton side, who I just feel, as much as I think they're very underrated and I love the way they play football, I've said all along, they're not completely out of it in terms of getting sucked into relegation. So I fancy, Patrick Bamford here.
Well, as we know, I think it's a good choice, Patrick Bamford, and we've watched him for many years, Scott, and we're covering Leeds, Championship, and he's getting so much criticism, and it was endless about replace Bamford. He's come out, his interviews are excellent. I think he's been really balanced to get those goals. Great to see.
He's having his best season of his career. Okay, team treble, where each of us pick a team that we think will win, that I've had to change now because of you, Brownie. 9-1.
I thought you, the presenter, would get first pick.
So did I as well, but clearly you're much more important than me.
So you know who we've gone for.
So we know you got.
Leeds United. To lose at Crawley, we've seen Bielsa obviously show some fascinating results. We've seen goals, both ends of the pitch. It's just been a pleasure to watch Leeds United, whether it be. I've had neutral supporters come up saying, I've just watched Leeds United, which is great, isn't it? I mean, Leeds supporters will want it a little bit tighter, but loving the journey that they've been on so far. To have lost last week, you talk about reaction, and I'm sure we're going to see one. Against the Brighton side, who can cause problems, they have a good shape, they're able to adapt, move you around. I've seen them make Leicester City change after half an hour there, from back 5 to back 4. So they've got that in there, the sort of setup. But as you said, Brighton side, looking over the shoulder. There's one who I've always said are those bottom 3 to go and catch. I always feel Burnley would have too much. And if the pressure increases on this Brighton side, the way they play, it will get tougher for them. So a reaction for Leeds United. Hopefully there's goals for everybody and we see a great football game. But Leeds United for my team of the weekend.
Well said.
I'm going for Norwich to beat Cardiff. Norwich have almost planned for the Championship last season when they're in the Premier League. They've overcome some injuries. Buendia probably should be playing in the Premier League. Cantwell is another one that maybe could. And they're starting to look a class apart in the Championship, certainly looking good for promotion. It's not going well for Neil Harris at Cardiff. They had 8 players out last week for the game at Forest, including Kiefer Moore and up front, Morrison at the back. So some big problems for him. They've lost 5 of their last 6. Norwich have won 5 of their last 7. I expect them to go to Wales and win. Yeah,
I think it's Norwich +1 for automatic promotion, but it's hotting up nicely in the Championship. As I've had to change, I've gone for West Ham. You're talking about Mikel Antonio there, up against Burnley. I think they will be fine. They're difficult to beat, but I still think they do lack that quality. Sean Dyche has kind of said that as well. And I think with the likes of Antonio, the way West Ham are playing, I think they should be aiming for Europe this season. Got through that difficult
Don't say
patch.
it. Don't put too much pressure on West Ham United.
There's one of about 10 teams probably that should be looking for aiming for Europe anyway. But yeah.
You've got to aim there, haven't you?
Yeah.
They've done really, really well this season so far.
That's my second choice. First was Leeds, second West Ham. That's it, Brownie. You enjoyed it?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, great to be back. Really enjoyed it, talking football with the stat man himself, all the knowledge. It's great to have him. You needed my iPad normally, but we can't have the table to bring me through it. So, no, it's been good. Enjoyed it.
And you back up tonight?
Back up, Manchester City tonight. Looking forward to that for Man City TV. I'm in the studio, if I make it up there in time.
I'm sure you will. Look, I'll stop talking now, okay? We'll finish now. Brownie, good to see you. Mark, as ever, thank you. Okay, that's it. We're back next week. We'll look back, of course, on what the big stories are this weekend, and we'll look ahead to the big stories coming up next weekend. From everyone here at Betfred and the Racing Post, please gamble responsibly. And can I just say as well, from everyone here at Betfred and the Racing Post, Sol Bamba, all the very best to you. You are a gentleman and an absolute fighter as well. So good luck in your battle.